but the U.S. already had like 200. And another time during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, the Cuban Missile Crisis was extremely close.
Yeah.
So in 1949, there's this whole thing about the Soviets blockading, because Berlin was split at the time. It was also split into East and West Berlin. So they blockaded West Berlin, which was completely separate from the rest of West Germany. So what happened was they blockaded it so they couldn't deliver food by train or truck. And the people of West Berlin and 2 American divisions were stuck without food. So what happened was, because the Soviets didn't want any Allied shipping to come in. So what they did was they flew planes over them, because the only way you can stop a plane is by shooting them down, which is an act of war.
Mm-hmm.
So you flown them over, landed in Berlin, and that's how they delivered goods. Yeah. But because at the time, if war did happen, Soviets didn't have a nuke while the US had 200. So if war did break out, the Soviets would have a lot more troops and probably be able to take out all of Europe but not Britain. But the Americans would probably just, because there's no such thing as MAD, mutually assured destruction back then, since only the United States had a nuclear bomb. The plan was to nuke military targets, but because all military targets in Russia were extremely close by the cities, that the cities would get destroyed. The top 200 most popular Soviet cities would get nuked. None, even though Poland was on the communist side of the Civil War, but they were on the Allied side.
Yeah.
Well, included Soviets, but democracy and stuff.
Yeah.
But their plan was not to nuke any German cities or Polish cities, just Russian cities.
Wow.
So, yeah.
What do you think was the cause of their demise, especially Germany?
Germany's demise and Soviets' demise.
Yeah.
The Germans' demise, well, they ran out of oil, because mainland Europe doesn't really have much oil. Another reason for invading the Soviets was because where the Caucasus are, right?
Yeah.
They're by Turkey, Iran, and all those nations down there, right?
Yeah.
That had a ton of oil at the time. So the Germans were to quickly grab that so they can supply oil for the rest of their troops, since they didn't have much. But because they weren't able to get there in time, they kind of ran out of oil, and the Soviets were able to outproduce them in tanks. And so they got slowly pushed back. And then they just kind of got attacked from too many angles, from Italy, from Russia, and from France.
Huh.
And the Japanese demise was, the destruction of their entire navy at Midway.
At Midway, yeah.
And the Russians' demise, the reason why the Soviet Union fell was because economic and political collapse. They couldn't keep the communist ranks anymore, and the economy was just going down and down.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What year was that approximately?
1990, it might be I think it was 1989, fairly recent.
Yeah.
Fairly recent.
Well, compared to the war, we started this conversation with World Wars, so yeah. But
the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yeah, that happened
what year was
a decade earlier or something.
88.
Was it 88? The fall of the Berlin Wall.
Well,
it was during was it during the Reagan years?
What?
Yeah.
President Reagan?
No. Well, I don't know. Come on.
It was definitely in the 80s, late 80s.
1989. When did the Soviets collapse?
Who was Mussolini?
The leader of fascist Italy during World War II. The Soviets collapsed in 1991.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who was Hitler's right-hand man?
I think it was a guy named Himmler.
Himmler, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the only reason why the Italians and Germans were teamed up during World War II is because, well, they had the same enemies and somewhat similar political ideas, but Germans had a hierarchy for what were the best races, and Mediterranean races like the Italians were way low, and so the Germans and Italians kind of hated each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did win World War II, then Germany would probably invade Italy next.
Yeah.
And their plan after they won World War II was also to invade Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why would they invade Switzerland? It's such a small country that seems so peaceful. All those countries, Sweden and Finland, but they wanted to take them all over, right? They're the what'd you call them?
What?
No, sorry. I was thinking the Caucasus. Those are the oil countries.
Yeah. I mean, I know Germany wanted to invade Switzerland.
Hitler just wanted to take over.
Yeah, he wanted world domination.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
I think he could have left the Japanese alone, but I think he would have also declared war on them eventually. Yeah.
How come America got involved in so many wars, and then we went and fought on their turf, their territory, like what we just watched with Hacksaw Ridge?
Well, I know World War One. I kind of forget why the Americans joined, but it was really late in the war, a year ago. I know, Pearl Harbor, Japanese wanted oil because the U.S. sanctioned them because of their aggressiveness. So and then World War One, I think they just got involved in it because democracy and stuff, and they wanted, democracy to kind of rule in Europe and stuff. World War II, they didn't actually want to fight in, they did a survey during World War II before they got involved, and 70% of Americans didn't want America to get involved during World War II.
Yeah.
So they're very isolated. Yeah, isolated after World War One. Now, World War One was caused by, some people say that both world wars was caused by this nation called Austria.
In Hungary. Yeah.
It basically was a country that owned, I think, basically, the Balkans region, the Czech Republic and Slovakia, and some of Poland.
Yeah.
It was pretty big, but it wasn't too big of an empire. So they kind of caused World War One because one of their leaders got assassinated, and then they declared war on Serbia because they assumed that they, caused the assassination, and then Russia, who kind of was friends with all those Balkan regions that Austria-Hungary didn't own. So they declared war on Austria-Hungary. Germany declared war on Russia because Germany and Austria, I can't say it, Hungary.
Austria,
were friends, and then France was friends with Russia because at the time Russia wasn't communist during World War One. Well, at least a bit of it. At the end, they kind of had a civil war and turned communist. But at the beginning, they weren't. And then France declared war on Germany, and how Britain got involved wasn't at first. Germany actually, what they did in World War II, but kind of didn't work because they didn't really have tanks back then, invaded Belgium, so Britain didn't really like neutral countries getting invaded. So they declared war on Germany. And I don't know why U.S. got involved. I think it was just because of relationships or something.
Yeah.
Probably.
And then it was U.S., Britain, France, and Russia versus Germany, Austria, Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, which is basically Turkey, but owned like most of them. Well, not most, but like a good amount of the Middle East.
Yeah.
And then the Japanese, were originally actually on like, at the time the Allies side, but the faction was called the Entente. And yeah, Japan was originally on that side. Well, Italy actually, Italy was first on Germany's side during World War One, but then the Entente, which was basically the Allies, promised Italy more land, and Italy switched sides. They didn't get that land. They were mad and turned fascist. And Japan was also mad because they were promised more land, but they also didn't get it. And Germany kind of like, the reason why they became fascist is originally they were democracy, but it was kind of failing. So, so it was failing and they turned fascist, and Italy also turned fascist because their economy was failing. And Japan, I don't know why. I think it just slowly turned fascist over time.